On this episode of the Coach's Clinic podcast, Coach Deegan was on ESPN.
Yeah, for all the wrong reasons. No, it's good. This is honestly one of my favorite episodes. I think we went deep. Got to talk about Coach Myers' his success, and it's been a lot of fun. Good show.
It was a great show.
Yeah, it was cool to hear about the cast. I feel like an underperformer after listening to all the greatness coming out of here, but it was a great episode.
So I might not have made ESPN, but I definitely had a banner year for the program, and I'm pumped to tell you guys about it.
Yeah, I think this was just a real good indicator of who's on the microphones here, the value that we offer, and it's a great show. Let's go. Coach's Clinic podcast. I'm your boy Corey G, Coach Mike Deegan, Coach Tyler Treadway, Coach Dustin Myers. Brought to you by MaxEffortMuscle.com and Sam Adams Beer. Coach, we're going to start right at ESPN. We ain't even messing around. I'm on Twitter, and I see ESPN SportsCenter dropping Denison baseball.
Yeah.
How does that feel, Coach?
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, you would hope it'd be for something like a championship or something. That's
coming though.
Yeah, that's right. But no, it was cool. It was really to get over 1 million views or whatever it was. Brandon Morgan's a great guy, and he's the one that took the photo and he kind of put it out there on one of our SIDs. So shout out to Brandon for making that happen and getting us some good publicity.
Yeah, it's got to be great for the program, but why were they focusing on you guys? So people that don't know what was going on.
It was just a wild game. So we played a team called Arcadia that was, they were preseason top 10, won 40 games last year. So two good teams going at it. Midweek game in Florida. So a lot of times, it's like our fourth or fifth game in a row. So pitching's tired and down, and then plus you add in 45-mile-an-hour winds blowing straight out. Just the straight out, high sky in Florida, bright sunny day.
Yeah.
So, anyways, it was 23-23 in the eighth inning when we had a humongous Florida storm came down. Okay. So lightning, everything, people were flooding out of there. So it was 23-23 in the eighth with 2 outs and bases loaded, and the game shuts down.
Okay.
Right. So then Brandon puts that out, and people are going, see the 23-23 in baseball, and then it just took off.
That's wild. So, but it took 24 hours to complete the game.
Yeah. So, that was a little bit of clickbait by ESPN.
Yeah,
I saw it, and I thought they really
played baseball for 24 hours.
That's what I was picturing.
No, it was. Rain hits. So let's say the game was at 11. I'm not even sure what time the start time was. Then it was like a probably 4 or 5 hour game, like to get 23-23. Rain comes. Big Florida storm, go home, sleep the night, come back the next day and do it. And what's crazy is like the other part of this is how weather dictates things. Next day you come in, the wind's blowing straight in. So it's 23-23, but the wind shifts, right? So like the day before, any fly ball is really a home run. And then the next day it's anything in the air is an out. So it's just a crazy little format.
I'll take the clickbait, bro.
Yeah, without a doubt.
It puts some like highlight on the program.
Without a doubt. And honestly, while it wasn't 24 hours of straight playing baseball, it was probably one of the more taxing games that I've been through in general, just mentally. Like when you're in that situation, you're making decisions from like pitch one because – you're going to keep this pitcher in, you can take this pitcher out. The other thing was other kind of like lesson, like from a baseball standpoint was, you get 27 outs in baseball. On a day like that, you don't want to waste an out. So, that became thing like, can we just survive? Can we just keep this thing going? So it was it was a max effort kind of day. You know what I mean? Like you had to stick with it mentally and physically and push through.
How many arms did you use, and did you get to the point where you're using position players? Because I always love that in the major leagues where it's like center fielders, they ain't pitched since high school. He throws 75, and he's in there throwing knuckleballs.
I should know. I almost wanted to erase that from my memory. And it's Florida.
You got to be 7 or 10.
Well, yeah, I would say in the 7 to 10 range. And the cool story was we did have a young man who was our student manager about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he was good. He just, for whatever reason, didn't work out for him, and we put him on the roster right before Florida, and he appears and threw an inning.
That's awesome.
So he was a manager a week prior, and like I said, he's good. He's a good high school pitcher. He's not. It's not like So anyways, but it was a cool story. He goes out there and does his job for an inning. So we didn't. That was even deeper than a position player, in my opinion. We had a guy that, like I said, was just helping us get set up for practice a couple weeks prior. and he's out there dealing on a top 10 team in the
That
country.
needs to be one of your blog posts.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Do you think you kind of had the foresight of like something might happen on this run down in Florida to put him to like bump him up onto the roster?
Yeah, we we're going through it a little bit just in general. We've had some injuries. We had some things that we didn't maybe necessarily foresee coming, but then I did foresee this coming. You're going, all right, we're playing 6 games in 5 days. We have 2, we call them AAA games, JV games, but we had 2 of those games. Like we're gonna need people. And like I said, I mean, that young man in particular, he deserved to be on the roster. We were a little full at the time, and so yeah, we saw it coming that we didn't see 23-23 coming, but we saw that there may be an opportunity for him to get out there.
That's a great story, Mike.
Yeah, I'm really proud. The cooler story, maybe if anyone's listening or want to share this with your kids, the cooler story is the way he handled it. So not making the team right out of the gates. Was disappointing, and like I said, I mean, he had a case. He had a legitimate case to be on the team, but we offered him the manager spot, and sometimes kids get they're too good for that, and he said no, I want to do it.
You want to be part
I
of
want
the
to help
team.
as much as I can. Like he became like really diligent with that. We gave him some tasks there that we thought could really help us, like scouting and things like that. Then we he's good. He's a good high school pitcher, so we're like, all right, can you throw BP? So he throws good BP. Like he's able to do that for us. So his arm's in shape. And then, you do all those right things, then you get an opportunity.
Got the nod.
And he got the nod. And when he got the nod, so this is what always breaks my heart. Sometimes I've seen people complain, and then they get their moment, and because they've been busy complaining, they're not ready. And this young man, his approach to life in general allowed him to have some success. And like I said, he's traveling. We're going to play Marietta today, always a top 20 team in the country.
Ooh,
and
okay.
he's on the travel roster. He's on the travel.
Good for him.
He's a dependable human being, right? So there's always value there.
Man, I love that. Trevor.
So 2 things, but first, can you get us to 23-23? Like, is it a game of runs, or is it just like you're steady climbing? And then 2, you kind of just dropped in that you're going back to Marietta to play today,
Which is kind of a big deal.
Which is kind of a big deal.
We were down 9. Like we went up 4-0 in the first inning. You could tell it was going to be that kind of day, just in general. But we went down 9, and so we were down 9, and then we just started plodding back, and hitting some. We had 7 home runs on the day.
Damn.
So it was great. I mean, there's a cool, we captured most of this on film, so there's some good highlights of it. But so. Just kind of body blown back and forth. And then the cool thing was that the day we come back, 23-23, the day we come back, we put up 3 in the 10th to go up 3. But then they load the bases with, and their shortstops. He's going to go to North Carolina next year. He's got 2 years of eligibility.
Oh, wow.
Anyways, so he's on, So anyways, on some NLI money too as well. And so anyways, like he's a good player. And anyways, like they load the bases, and our freshman kid who's playing center field for us right now makes a great catch at the wall to kind of end the game. So it was great. And I think one of the big takeaways, if if you want to wrap it up, is the team we played. Their coach, unbelievable coach. Like I felt exhausted playing him because he thinks well. He's sharp. And that game could have gotten real chippy because of the runs scored, of the length of it. There was none of it. That was the most beautiful thing of all this. It was just like 2 really competitive teams trying to stay in a really unconventional baseball game, but sticking with it and fighting. No smack talking and nothing. Just 2 teams balling. And I love it. And we kind of embraced afterwards, and I would have done the same for him. You know what I mean? Like it was, sometimes you come on either end of those things. We could easily lost that. We got the nod, but the way he handled it and the way he approached things, I thought like their team, they'll win. Just keep your eye on Arcadia. Like I said, they won 40 games last year. They'll be in the tournament this year because they'll just keep getting better.
There's a lot of good takeaways from this whole thing.
Yeah,
Mike.
no doubt. Like I love competition like that. Like I love like I always say, sometimes when I'm watching youth sports or younger level sports and I see like the I don't know, talking to the other teams and stuff like that. It drives me crazy because higher level competition usually isn't like that. I don't know how it is like in the wrestling. But there's a mutual respect for 2 people who have worked really hard and they're going at it that you don't have time for all that other stuff. It's just like, you're worried about yourself and competing hard and trying to win the game in front of you, but you're not worried about trying to clown the other opponent or whatever.
Yeah. It's not
it was
about
cool.
that.
Yeah.
Dustin, you got anything?
No, so, I mean, how often have you been in a situation in a game? I mean, forget the rain cancellation, having to come back the next day, but where it's such a high-scoring affair where probably at any moment. I mean, the lead's probably changing every inning or whatever, but like a 23-23, like that just doesn't happen. in
No,
baseball.
this is
Not at this level.
No, this is the rarest thing that I've been a
I
part
mean,
of.
even in like Little League,
No.
I mean, if
Yeah,
you see
yeah.
that, it's probably 23-2.
Yeah,
exactly.
true. Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean?
Exactly. Honestly, I'm going to give you guys a shout out. You know, just in general, it's kind of what you all preach, like just the resilience and sticking with it. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of was you know my mindset as a coach, and I think our players kind of feed off that as well. Like you can't get caught up in the scoreboard. You know, the score's going to take care of itself. You have to just kind of just keep sticking with what you're doing. And all I kept saying was, you know, we're not going to give an out away. Like, we're not going to give one away. We're not going to make an out on the bases. We're not going to make it out. Like, we're just going to try to make them earn 27 of these things.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's like, I guess what I'm saying, like the shout out would be, it's just resilience, right? It's just like we were beat mentally and physically. You're down 9 runs. You don't know who your next arm coming in is, right?
You
Yeah,
guys
that-
were down 9 at one point.
Yeah, we're down 9. So like so you're kind of just like, all right, we're just going to you know, our little tag this year, stay standing, you know, and it's a lot of the stuff I learned in here, like just I'm going to keep walking back out there. Like it's not over.
It'd probably be so easy for the team to mentally give up when you're down 9 runs. That's an astronomical
That's a
amount.
lot.
It
In
was
baseball,
it was
it's a
tough.
lot.
It was really tough. And you know what was crazy? After all that, we had to play a game after that. The next after
after
we
you finished
played and then we finished this game and then we had a game after. And
The same day.
Same day. And we didn't fare too well, but I was, you know, as a coach, I was really proud of our I'm glad I was able to do this the night we got suspended. So it was 23-23. Met with the team, just like, you know, bed check type stuff, and I was able to tell them, regardless of the results, like we saw some dog today. Like, we saw some dog. Like our catcher catches, you know, a bazillion pitches that day.
That's a lot.
You know, like, you know, we talk about how hard it is to catch. Like there was, we punched back. You know, we took some punches and we punched back. And like I said, I can say the same thing for Arcadia, because sometimes we get married to a result, but man, it was just 2 teams that went toe to toe.
Like, I would recommend before this leaves your mind to some degree, you need to put
Judge.
pen, yes.
Yeah.
Even if it's bullet points, because you want to have it as fresh. That's why I wanted to get you on here as fast as possible, because you want to get it while it's fresh.
Yeah, there's some beauty. Like, that to me is the beauty of sports, right? Like that was a game where there's going to be sometimes where it's a 0-0 game or 1-0 game, like where you learn a lot. But there were a lot of life lessons packed into that you know 27 hours or whatever it ended up being.
So good. Dustin had a huge state tournament for his guys. I wanted to kind of do a recap there. We had, 4 state title winners within the group at Old School. So, you know.
Yeah, so I had, I think, the most even state qualifiers this year ever, you know, for my groups. I think I had 15 or 16 kids that qualified for the state tournament.
How many kids in each like weight class qualify? I don't know, Dust.
Yeah, so there's 16 per weight class.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So the way it works in high school is you know, it's kind of divided by region. So you go to your sectional first, you got to place top 4. Then those funnel into a district. Now you got 4 different sections that funnel that district. You got to place top 4 then to then qualify for the state tournament.
Okay.
And there's 4 districts around the state.
Yeah, I mean, so top 16 kids. So 15-year kids were top 16 in their division.
Correct.
And
Well,
in
and
their
then
weight.
and then I think maybe 12 of them actually made it on the podium. So then
that's sick.
we're actually top 8 in the state. You know, so definitely a really good run, and you know, to have 4 state champs. You know, I think, like, you know, I've been doing this so long, but I've only had 2 state champs ever.
Yeah.
And one of them was David last year, and then Jaden Maddox, you know, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. So I've had a lot of kids make the finals, but no one ever won. I had a lot of kids that have made the podium, you know, going back to, you know, Jake Martinez and Forrest and Clay and all those guys who went on to become, you know, D1 wrestlers, but they had never won a state title. So, yeah, to have 4 of them in 1 year is pretty cool. And it's, you know, it's maybe easy to look at it and think, okay, well, on one hand, that means we're doing something right here. But on the other hand, it means we're starting to just attract kids who are elite and really want to be elite. You know, that's kind of the standard around here. And, you know, for some of these guys, you know, Dylan Newsom won his first state title as a senior, but he's been with me since 6th grade. You know, he's probably, you know, he's one of my strongest kids ever.
It's a stud.
Yeah, he's going on to wrestle at, you know, Oklahoma. So he'll be, you know, wrestling in the Big 12. You know, even, you know, Joe Curry won a state title as a freshman. He's been here since 6th grade. You know, Dave McClellan just won his 2nd state title. He won it last year, and he's really started with me in maybe 6th or 7th grade, and then left and went to Florida for a couple years, and then just came back last year. You know, I mean, so he's a guy that's been around the gym for a long time.
And where's he going to wrestle at?
Clarion.
Clarion, which is huge.
So another D1 kid.
Yeah.
And then, you know, Max is the one. You know, Max and Lincoln both made the finals. They're brothers. It's shoe laws. Max went undefeated this year, and won the state title. And, Lincoln had the unfortunate
Had to wrestle Dylan.
Yeah. Lincoln's only a sophomore, but yeah, unfortunately was in Dylan's weight class. So, but he has 2 more years. So, but so those guys have only been with me for a couple years, but they're really leaders around here. They're ones, guys that not only are really strong and love to lift weights, but they really show a lot of good, leadership to the younger kids and maybe a little newer kids. So I think, it creates an expectation and culture in this gym. For the younger kids, they look around, they're like, yesterday, there was 4 state champs walking around.
Oh, yeah.
And
you can feel it, too.
Multiple kids that are on the podium, And it's kind of light, this last week and this week. I'm just kind of getting them back in the groove. So the mood's not real serious yet, just kind of getting everyone back in the groove, let them have fun, let them get used to lifting weights again. And then next week we start kind of ramping up the intensity a little bit. But I think it's good for the younger kids to see, like, hey, you're in here doing the same workouts as Max Shulaw and Dylan Newsome. And, hey, maybe you're in 6th or 7th grade now, but, Newsome was here doing the same thing at that age too.
I think it's the environment and the techniques, and now it's like that is like the standard. So these younger kids, they know what it looks like. They're going to grow up through the same. Like now, it's just going to be you're going to be turning them out. I think the reality is like even with my baseball kids, like that's what Oklahoma looks like. That's what a Big Ten kid looks like. This is what Clarion looks like. Like you can feel it in the room. You know what I mean?
Well. And I think too, I've kind of maybe proven myself and my kind of my system to the point where now the coaches in Central Ohio that are elite, they want their kids to come here. Colin Palmer, coach of the year, Division II coach of the year at DeSales, he looks at it almost as like we have like a partnership.
Yep.
He sends his kids here. Even, Kyle Bergeron here in Granville, he encourages all the kids to come here. So I think that's maybe something that's changed over the years as I've because coaches can be very territorial,
For sure.
They would almost rather, if they have the kids at the school lifting weights, they know what they're doing, or maybe they have one of their assistant coaches running or whatever. But I think the good coaches in Central Ohio, they know if they want, number one, if they want their job to be easier and their kids to be prepared when the season comes, they want them to come here.
2 things jump out to me. One, we have something in our locker room that says standing on the shoulders of those before us, like meaning – I think there's something like success leaves clues, and like if you don't know, like if you're like training and you don't know a state champion, you've never seen one, you've never been around them, it's so hard. It's almost like
it's hard to imagine that you could do it if you've never seen it in the flesh or been around it.
And been around so like that's such a gift just there, just being able like I could do this like that, like I can train like him. It's not. I don't know. And then I went and watched him, and I watched him win a state championship. Like having that proximity to greatness is
it's huge.
One of the it's a gift in anything we do, right?
Well, I've told that to parents before of younger kids. I said, part of it you come here, you send your kid here because of the environment. Part of it you send here because of
the knowledge,
the workouts. But a big part of it is being around the training partners. If your kid's going to be around Dylan Newsome, who's a D1 kid, they're going to get to not just see how much he lifts, but they get to see his habits. They get to see how he acts. And, a kid like Dylan Newsome doesn't act the same as a kid at their school who might have a little bit of talent, but, gets in trouble or doesn't work real hard or maybe hasn't, is kind of fallen short of expectations. So I think that's a big bonus, for these younger kids to be able to be around D1 kids every year and kids that have won state titles to get to see how they operate. And, I think that rubs off on those kids.
No doubt. And then the second thing I was going to say, is just kind of reflecting on all of that it's just amazing to me. Like it's no different than in life. Like when you can get around, if you've never had money and then you can be exposed to someone who shows you how this is how you earn some money, right? Like it's just like the 2 parallels are there. It's just
business, sports, it's all the same.
Without a doubt. So awesome. That's a great story. I appreciate you sharing.
Well, the same thing for like my kid signing at Ohio State. Like now I'll have him the next 2 years, and that's what the kids that I'd end up working with, like that's what a Big Ten baseball player looks like.
Well, I think it can kind of seem like to your point, it can seem impossible until you're around it. So some of these other kids. Now, maybe if they've had some talent or success in baseball leading up, but they've never been around a kid that is going to play for OSU.
Yeah.
Now it's their training partner.
Exactly.
And so they start to look at themselves a little bit differently because they can think, well, maybe I'm not that far away.
Yeah.
The gap isn't as big as they thought it was.
Well, you're
initially.
Like, wait, that's just Ashton, who I train with all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Same with in your group. The other thing I think that is really cool about this facility is, like, for instance, Kyle Kirby, this young freshman I got that's an absolute stud. Like, I introduced him to Peters yesterday, Brian Peters. I'm like, that's what Northwestern and being the captain of the Texans special teams looks like.
Right.
You see what he looks like? That's how big he is, like the way he operates. And it's like, it's just like business. When you walk in and you can look under the hood, and you're like, okay, that's what I'm up against. I just think like that is so valuable, and that is here all over the fucking place. And I take a lot of pride in that.
No doubt.
Which is why when we built this place,
the idea.
That was the idea.
Yeah.
For sure. So, Treadway.
Yeah, I just want to touch on Dustin's real quick. Like, I think a big part of why they're so successful is because it doesn't matter if it's a state champion or if it's a kid that's his first day. You instill this belief in everybody here that they're capable of being a state champion, right? So they walk in and yeah, they're training, but you're not treating the state champions any different than than the young kids, right? You're coaching them up the exact same way, and I think a lot of people tend to gravitate towards like the skill guys, right? Like, hey, this guy's a state championship, I'm going to pay a little bit more attention to him. But you treat every kid the exact same, and I think that belief in them is what creates champions.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to pick favorites sometimes, you know, because when you have a kid who you really like and has performed well for you and then has also had a lot of good success, it's hard not to favor them a little bit. I mean,
or
we're
work hard. Or work hard, right? Like when they show up all the time, they put forth the best effort. Like, you gravitate as a coach.
Yep.
But I think it's important for the kids to see that, like, I think probably the most important thing is for kids to see that you don't let that kid have more leeway, that they're still held to the same standard. Although I did tell all the kids last week, you know, the kids that had just wrestled at the state tournament, or the kids that just placed or whatever, I said, hey, you guys can go light this week, you guys can go easy. Whereas the other kids that had a week off, the expectation was a little bit different. But I think the most important thing for the younger, or maybe kids that are still trying to meet some of those goals, to see is that everyone's held to the same standard. But yeah, you have to treat kids the same because they need to feel like that they can be in that kid's position. You know what I mean? That they're not held back because you're not giving them the same attention or the same instruction or whatever. And sometimes the kids that are on the bubble, they need a little bit more. You know, they need to know, they need that pat on the back. They need that to know that you have that self-belief in them. You know, I don't have to pat Max Shula on the back very often, you know. He can look in the mirror and he knows he's doing the right things, and I mean, he's a man child, you know.
He's yoked out of his mind.
But someone else needs to know, like, hey, they need to hear that their arms look big today, or that that their reps look good, or that they're pushing hard, you know. So sometimes I kind of try to give those kids that are on the bubble maybe even a little bit more love than the other kids.
Yeah, no, I think it's the body of work that's been on display, you know, lately for both of you guys, pretty awesome. And like, I saw that on social media, plus I saw about a bunch of Dustin's kids posting stuff, and it's like, one, that's why we know this podcast is so helpful and beneficial, I think, for people to listen, because we got, you know, big time players on the mics here. Coach, what's the current ranking? I know you're always downplay, but where are we at?
I think 14th or 15th. Yeah, I don't know, I don't downplay it. I just know where we are right now, and I know we got a lot of.
I respect that answer.
Yeah, it is. It is the truth. It's the truth. It's the truth. Our guys know it. We know it. We're just in the fight. You know what I mean? So we're gonna keep rolling.
Dustin, who is I guess there were some of the kids that you expected to win, but was there anybody that like really surprised, like that performed even over expectations, that like out of your group? I don't want you to play favorites, but there's got to be somebody that like maybe like Lincoln, you know, or somebody like, did you expect Lincoln to be in the finals?
Yeah, once I saw that he was opposite in the bracket from Dylan.
Okay.
Yeah, then I kind of expected him to make. I mean, he was ranked maybe third in the state, but I mean, those kids that are ranked second, third, fourth, it really just depends on how the bracket falls.
I gotcha.
Yeah, so Lincoln performed how I expected him to. I thought that Joe Curry had a chance to win a state title, but I don't think a lot of people did. You know, a lot of people thought that he wasn't going to win.
So that was an
freshman.
upset then.
Yep. Yeah, he wasn't. He was ranked maybe third or fourth also, but I thought that he had a good shot at winning. To me, one of the most impressive performances were two kids that didn't win the title, but is Cooper Rathburn and Colton Reedy. All right, so both really good kids have been with me for a long time. And I think Cooper's a junior and Colton is a sophomore.
Okay.
Now, the way the brackets fell, they unfortunately ended up having to wrestle first round, and they're in the same quarter bracket as David McClellan, the defending state champ, soon to be two-time state champ. Yeah. So not only do they have to wrestle each other first round, and they're lifting partners in here, you know, they've known each other forever, but then the winner
has to wrestle David.
You know, both of them have lost to David before. So, so they wrestle first round. Cooper wins in overtime. It's like a 1-1 match going in, you know.
Seeing your guys go against each other has to be crazy.
Yeah,
too.
it's tough. It's crazy, you know. But the cool thing is then to see them like at the tournament hanging around together.
Embrace.
I mean, so they don't hate each other. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, it's you put it on the line and see what happens. But anyway, so they wrestle first round. It's 1-1 going into overtime. Cooper hits a nice, I think, ankle pick that, you know, for 4 and, you know, takes the match in overtime. Then Cooper loses to David. Then they both drop down into the wrestlebacks. Now, especially for Colton, if you lose first round, it's really hard to place the state tournament because now you're up against, you got to win 3 or 4 in a row, and eventually you're going to run into kids who, you know, 1, 2, or 3. Now they're those kids lose in the semis and drop down. You know what I mean? So you got to pull some upsets along the way. Well, anyway, they both drop down to the consolation bracket, win all the way through, and wrestle each other again for 3rd and 4th. You know, and,
But they're both podium. Or
well,
is
yeah.
it just 3 gets podium?
No, top 8.
That's right.
Yeah, top 8. So, you know, in Colton or Cooper won again. Like I think it was like a 4-3 match again for 3rd and 4th. So, to me, that was one of the most impressive things of the tournament to see those guys that are friends and training partners have to wrestle first round. You know, and you know. Colton drops down. He pulled a couple good upsets along the way. Honestly, the kid he had in the consolation semis was a kid who I shouldn't say almost beat David, but gave David a really tough match in the semifinals. Kid from Carrollton, actually. He's really tough. I think David might have beat him 4-3 or 3-2. So that kid drops down, who on paper should beat Colton.
Yeah.
But Colton beats him in a tight match, and then him and Cooper rematch for 3rd and 4th.
Nice.
So that was something that I didn't expect that to happen.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I was really pumped.
I got one thing. Just that's an awesome story. One thing, Dad. Just you said something earlier that I think I'd encourage coaches that you know, high school coaches or college coaches to consider. You mentioned how like is it the Reedy coach or no? Who's the coach that you partner with?
So the sales coach.
The sales. Sorry, the sales. I was a rival. But anyways,
Yeah.
to me, like we talk about now, like I think the biggest competitive advantage we can have is having good collaborations with guys that have facilities. Like that's like our new thing. We've talked about this at length. We almost look at them not to be like subcontractors. Like right, like we're kind of overseeing like the whole totality of it. But our athletes have so much time away from us, whether for us like in the summer or winter. Like getting them with good, competent people who have their best interests in mind and also who know how our system works. And I don't mean that from an egotistical standpoint, but they need to know how we want to play, how we want to execute, how we operate. But if you find trusting partners like that, to me, that's the greatest competitive advantage. I'm not an expert in lifting. I'm not an expert in hitting anymore. But there are people who have that. So if we can get our young men around those people, I think it's like the biggest game changer. So I just wanted to say, to me, like that's a huge opportunity for coaches to explore getting their guys around really, really talented individuals.
I mean, it's really just understanding that if you align yourself with these people that are, you know, specialize in other areas, it's only going to help your program and make your job easier at the end of the day because they're going to come back to you more prepared for spring ball.
Without a doubt. And it's finding the right people, you know. And like I said, we look at it as a partnership. Like we talk to those people and say, hey, here's what we're seeing. You know what I mean? Here's what we like. And then they're yours. But I want them to hear like what we're trying, like at least what we've evaluated over 4 months. So anyways, I think that's a big opportunity, and I'm glad people are taking advantage of it.
One of the things I saw, we're in scrimmage time for, you know, high school season right now, but like I have a kid, Sawyer, that is up 20 pounds, 60 times down. Like he looks strong, explosive. Cold day, doesn't even get the barrel on it, and it goes. Yeah. It goes yard. And, you know, I can tell he knows he didn't even catch it.
Yeah.
And so then he's thinking, like, what happens when I do? And the ball's fly. I mean, you know how it is on those days, Mike. And so after the game, you know, I'm waiting on AG or whatever. He comes over. He's like, that's the lifting, G. I knew it. I didn't even barrel that. Like, he's all hyped, right? Because he knows he's going to have way more of, like, I didn't even really get to that, but it's still left. But then 2 weeks before that, I watched him pull 405 like the bar was fucking empty. I mean, empty. And I just knew because he already knows how to play baseball. I'm not worried about that. So it was like I saw him put the barrel on it, and it was like immediate. I was like, oh, baby, I can't. I just am so excited to see it translate like to Dustin's point, because now it's been a couple years, right? It's like to see that translate, and I think I'm on the front side of it, but it's like, man, it was really exciting as a coach to see that.
I think it's a great example of, all right, so training baseball players and wrestlers might be slightly different, but at the end of the day, if you can make kids stronger, they're going to perform better.
And more explosive. It doesn't matter.
Stronger, more explosive. They're going to be better at any sport.
Yes.
You know, so you can
more confident, Dustin.
Yes, for sure. If a kid knows they're stronger and they believe in themselves, they're going to perform better. So you can do all these, sport-specific drills and speed drills and ladders, and all this shit can have its place. But at the end of the day, the biggest impact I think you can have on kids is making them stronger.
I want to make them a more stronger, more confident human. Back to what Brian Peters says, like you're harder to kill. Yeah. If you're a more badass, strong person, and even I tweeted something yesterday when Ezra came in, he rack pulled 500, like the bar was empty. And I was like, he probably could have done 600, but my point was we're in season, so we're not going to strain like that. Mm-hmm. And we're not going to do the same volume, but we still lift weights. Mm-hmm. So when he gets up to bat, he knows if I just get to this ball, this thing's going. And one of my other kids, the wind got caught weird. It was warning track, same type of thing. So I'm seeing signs, and my favorite thing, and then I know Mike's got to go to a meeting soon, is all of my kids, besides AG, because he don't bat, he wants nothing to do with it. They're all in a row in the lineup.
Murderer's row.
So they literally are, it's you got Soy, Ezra, Drew, and Owen. They all look like grown-ass men. Mm-hmm. The legs on these dudes compared to everyone else, I'm old school kid, old school kid, old school kid, old school kid. And then AG's legs are jacked too. So it's you can see the difference. And these are the group I've had for now 3 years. Because there's the ones that kind of started this whole process with AG. So I went back through a bunch of stuff. So it's been super rewarding. And, only one of these kids probably is going to play college baseball. The rest of them are just probably going to lift weights for the rest of their lives, I hope. But we know the impact that our lifting coach had on us. And shout out Coach Hoover. But I think we know a lot more than Coach Hoover knew back then. But the reality is the impact and the intensity and the understanding, it changed me and Dustin forever. And so, I'm starting to see, man, this is I already knew this was my purpose, but it's been real rewarding.
Well, I think a point that gets lost in it too, to be successful with a kid, it doesn't always have to be that they sign to Ohio State or they won a state title. So number one, obviously the long-term benefits of them getting into weightlifting and getting strong and being confident obviously are huge.
Yeah.
But maybe they went from being a JV.
We didn't sign at Ohio State, baby.
No. But even just having them go from being a JV player to now they're a varsity player, that's huge for a kid.
Listen, my biggest body of work is AG going from a guy that might not have ever played varsity to a kid that's a varsity starter because he goes from throwing 70 to 80 and the confidence is here. He's a whole different kid because of being in this gym, 100%. I'm glad it's my kid and I was able to impact him like that. But I got to tell you, when he was 14, I wasn't so sure because he wasn't buying in. So at the end of the day, him getting his varsity letter to me was almost just as him signing to go play baseball. I knew he was a tweener. And so the work ethic definitely paid off. It's pretty cool.
Love it.
Yeah. So Trevor, you got anything else? You want to wrap us up?
No, this was a great episode.
It was really good. Dust, congrats on the state title winners, bro.
Thanks, man. I think the standard's high, so we just got to keep it rolling.
Yeah, I like it. I like the room, and all my kids can talk about is they can't wait for the summertime because they know wrestling kids are going to be popping, the baseball kids are going to be popping. It's alive at old school. It's going to be good. Coach, any shout-outs?
No, just appreciate the show and appreciate everyone listening.
All right, Coach's Clinic Podcast brought to you by MaxEffortMuscle.com and Sam Adams. I'm your boy, Corey G. Coach Mike Deegan, Tyler Treadway, Coach Myers. We are out.